Our science sketch today is on ATP. Now, maybe you've heard of this before, and maybe this is brand new to you, but we're going to talk a little bit about what it is and what it does. Let's go ahead and set up our page. Go ahead and write ATP at the top of your page, and you can put a box around it here. Then we're going to divide the page into 4 sections. And the left sections are going to be a little bit larger than the right. So we'll divide the top and bottom, and then divide the left from the right there. Okay, great. So in each of these boxes, we're going to describe a little bit about what it is, what it does, how it works, and how it's made. So we're going to start right here in the upper left corner here. So write what it is here. Now you probably realize that your body needs a source of energy. You need a constant supply of energy in order to function. And you also know that your food provides that energy. A molecule that plays a big role in this process is ATP. So ATP is actually short for something longer, which is, the full name of it is adenosine triphosphate. So you see this in biology with a couple different terms, like sometimes we call the endoplasmic reticulum the ER, or deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. So ATP is a shortened version of this. So we have ATP here. So adenosine triphosphate sort of looks like this. We're going to draw a diagram. So it has one section that's got a molecule of adenine. And no, it's not really a square, but that's okay. And attached to that adenine, we're going to draw a pentagon here. And this pentagon represents a ribose sugar. And attached to that, we've got 1, 2, 3 phosphates. So that's our molecule of adenosine triphosphate. So the name of it comes from these different parts that it's made of. The adenosine part is coming from the adenine and ribose. And then, of course, tri means 3, and there's 3 phosphates, so this part comes from the 3 phosphates at the end. So the last 3 phosphates here have energy stored in the chemical bonds, and the most energy is actually stored in this last one here. So I like to think of this as like a full battery. So we're going to draw a little battery underneath here. There's the end, and we'll shade it in to show that it's a full battery. All right, so it keeps the energy stored until it's ready to be used. What do we use this energy to do? That's what we're going to use this next box to answer. What's going on with this molecule of ATP? All right, so at the top of your box here, you're going to write what it does. What it does. Pretty much every process in your body is going to need energy. You've got just thousands of things going on every second. So one of those examples would be muscle contraction. So whether you're moving or not, you have muscles that are contracting, around your lungs and your heart, your digestive system. So that muscle contraction is going to take some energy. All right, you've also got nerve impulses being sent all the time throughout your body, from the brain, down the spinal cord, to the other nerves. Another way that your cells would use energy is in cellular signaling. So cells actually need to communicate with each other. They need to be able to send messages back and forth to other cells. All right, another process you might need energy for is active transport. So this occurs when your cells need to use energy in order to bring materials into the cell or release materials from the cell. And there are much more. There are a lot of ways that your body is using energy. And I, compare it to your body, but these processes need to go on to some extent in every living thing. Not every living thing has muscles and nerves, but every living thing needs to carry out these processes that need energy. So let's take a minute to draw some little pictures that represent these different ways that energy is used. So these little pictures help me remember, what all this energy is being used for in a living thing. So how does this work? How do we use ATP for energy? So how do we use any energy stored in any chemical bond? Well, you break the bonds. And the cool thing about ATP is that you don't have to break up the whole molecule and use it all up the way that you would use all the gas in a car, for example. So in this box, we're going to write how it works. So the way ATP is used is that we only have to break up the most high energy bond. So that's that last phosphate bond there. So this means that ATP is like a rechargeable battery and can be used over and over again. So what happens is that the ATP breaks down into something called ADP. And we'll go ahead and write the full name of this here. So it's still adenosine, but this time it's diphosphate. So let's draw that under here. So we've got, again, our adenine molecule. We've got our ribose sugar. And we've got 1, 2 phosphates. So that's what the di means. Di means 2 here. So there are 2 phosphates. And where'd the last one go? It was broken off. And that's where we get the energy. I'm going to show that little burst of energy in color there. So this is where our energy comes from. Just releasing that last bond. So we end up with ADP. We can compare this to a partially charged battery. So we didn't use up all of the energy in the whole molecule. We just used some of it. And the good thing about that is that it can be reused over and over again. It can just be recharged. So how does it get recharged? How do we charge this battery back up to be used again? Well, this is where your food comes in. So let's go to this last box over here, and we'll look at how it's made. So does your cheeseburger turn directly into ATP? No, not exactly. It works like this. So you're going to eat some food. Here's your food. Let's say you had a cupcake or a healthy bran muffin, whatever it is. You've got your food. And it's going to go into your body. It's going to be broken up into smaller pieces. And eventually, it's going to be broken down into glucose. So we're going to draw glucose as sort of a hexagon here. It's a 6-carbon sugar. So our food is broken into glucose. And the glucose is traveling through your bloodstream and into your cells. And it eventually goes into the mitochondria. So we have another video on what happens once it gets into the mitochondria. But for now, we'll just summarize and say that the mitochondria is going to break down that glucose, and it's going to use the energy stored in those bonds to recharge the ADP. So usually at the end of this process, you'll have 36 molecules of ATP. So we have ADP changed to ATP at the end of this. So that's how it eventually gets made. So you might be wondering, why are we using one kind of chemical energy, which is glucose, to create another kind of chemical energy in ATP? Why not just use glucose directly? Well, it seems kind of like a waste to go through all that extra stuff, right? Well, glucose actually has a lot more energy stored in it than an individual molecule of ATP. And your cells don't really need all of that energy at once. So it would be sort of like trying to use a power plant to power your TV. It would overload. It's too much. So the energy is just used in small amounts to do a lot of different things as needed.